Your name, what you eat, and where you hail from goes a long way to embody your culture. And today, culture stands endangered because we have so many foreign, or you can call them emerging trends, which are eroding the values of our culture, and then we adapt to something quite foreign and alien. Have you lost your culture? It's quite rhetoric. But today on AU Talks, I feature a great delegation who will be assisting us all share the insights on preserving and conserving your culture and the significance thereof for you. And I'll be having a rep from the Accra Technical University, Dr. Florence Plockey, and also Dr. Christopher Owusu-Ansah from the Akenten Appiah-Menkah University for Skills Training and Entrepreneur Development. You're welcome to AAU Talks.
Thank you.
Splendid. You know, the conversation about cultural preservation is a very profound one because everybody begins to appreciate how culture means a lot to them. But today you can't but join the trend and forget about where you hail from. But let's appreciate from you, Dr. Florence, why is it important for us to remember to preserve our culture?
Well, thank you for this question. I think you agree with me that most of our culture heritage is eroding. They are eroding, and it's very important for us to preserve it because it gives us a sense of belonging and pride. Who am I? I'm a Ghanaian in a beautiful Adon Kente dress, only from Ghana.
Splendid.
And maybe zoom into Bonri Ashanti.
Straight up.
And I'm proud of that.
Sure.
So it gives me a sense of pride.
Yeah.
Yes, and belonging. And preserving it also connects us to our past, our present, and our future. How would I know my past? Who are my ancestors if we don't preserve this heritage system? And we also, not preserving it, is also promote our national economic development. Because when you look at the tourism, it brings in a lot of revenues and also generates a lot of employment to our youth. And it's very important for our national development.
Yeah.
Preserving our national heritage also brings about diversity and creativity, especially in our language system. We have so many ethnic groups in Ghana. And with this diversity and creativity is very key when we are talking about national development. So we need to preserve it. Do you remember our slavery and the colonization? How do you remember this? It helps us to how do you address this heritage system, the colonization and the slavery system, and then help revitalize our indigenous knowledge, and then also help the healing system. I did a course at UDS called Indigenous Development. That is about revitalization of our indigenous system.
Sure.
Our education has given us a different mindset, but we are now reawakening, coming back to our senses, our value systems. And so these are very, very important reasons why we need to preserve our culture, so that our generations to come will know who we are, where they come from, our value systems. Very, very important. Traditional value system, the family system. Now we are all following the nuclear systems of doing things, and which is not part of Africa.
Yeah.
It's very bad.
That's actually interesting. And to you, Dr. Owusu-Ansah, help us appreciate what we have lost thus far. We have been led to affiliate and also cling onto alien or foreign ways of doing things or ways of living, having left our own value systems behind or our culture behind. Tell us how bad our identity and also our cultural representation has been eroded or dampened thus far. What is the effect to this?
Well, for me, the fact that urbanization, westernization, and what we call modernization has taken over. It is pervasive in every aspect of our lives. What it does to us mostly is that we have lost our identity as a people. Of course, many of us, our parents gave us, they called it christening. They christened us. And so you find that our first names per se, our first names are even foreign.
Yeah.
It is not indigenized. Yeah. And so it is no surprise that you find young people coming up and today they refuse to speak their native language. I think in the news a few years ago, there was a cry amongst the Gans, especially in Accra, that the Gan language wasn't being taught in schools on their lands. And I think that this is regrettable, that as a parent, you are raising your children, and at a point, you cannot even communicate with them in your native language. It is not just the fact that we need to communicate in a native language. After all, if you speak in English, there will still be communication and probably understanding. But the fact is that you have a whole group of people who are cut off from another same group of people just because of language barrier. And so the effect, the long-term effect, is even on economic development. So we have a development agenda which actually excludes the masses of the people. And so no wonder many African countries appear to be struggling economically. So the effect is dire, and it is quite worrying if nothing is done to address this issue of identity crisis.
Great. Yeah. You know, this is shared understanding. You mentioned modernization, which is quite inevitable. We were encroached by this modernization agenda. We were caught up in the web, and we had to live with it. And today, here we are, an embodiment of modernization and also a bit of our cultural beliefs, and we're just trying to make it work now. Can you say that modernization, necessity, innovation, which is also the reason why we live, to get things better, to accustom ourselves to the best ways of doing things, have that been able to lead us to forget our own cultural beliefs, just getting things better, or getting things to be more easier and more flexible? Is that so much a threat to make us to have left our cultural heritage for what we are now, Doc?
Yes, obviously. You see, modernization and urbanization did for us. Growing up, you grow up in a big house where you see your aunties, your uncles, your cousins. You all live together, eat together, sometimes eat together in the same bowl.
Yeah.
The beauty of it. Imagine a young couple who have just delivered. Auntie is there to cater for, help you. Grandma is there, uncle is there, cousins are there. What do we see now because of modernization and urbanization? Now I have my 2-bedroom flats. I've given birth as a young couple. Nobody's around. There's no that support system. We've lost it.
Yeah.
Even our values as respect for the elderly.
Yeah.
Our languages, as Dr. Chris said. You see people speaking English to their children. A native Ghanaian child cannot speak his own dialect. So that's how bad modernization and urbanization is doing. But I'm also happy that there is that kind of reawakening. And so at least I'm happy about that.
It's amazing. But back to you, Dr. Owusu-Ansah, we are trying to pick up the pieces from where we fell. We have embraced modernization totally, that today we do not even know how to fit in our own principles and beliefs into it. Can we call it off now? Because literally, do we have any hooks and cranks that we can fix our own traditional antecedents in?
Thank you. What I wanted to pose a question, but maybe a rhetorical one.
Okay.
In the 20th century,
Sure.
Let's say in the 1900s, or probably at the time of the sinking of the Titanic in 1915, was it a modern period? At that time, for the people then, was it a modern period?
Sounds interesting.
But today we think it was, long time ago, right? Yes. Even in the time of the prophets of the Bible, there was a time that they called a modern period. And then there was a time that they also referred to as ancient times. At every stage in history, someone thinks that they are living in a modern time. But the people who also lived 100 years, 1,000 years earlier, they were also living in their modern time. Yeah. So there is, for me, it is only very subjective that you call a certain period modern, and so you let go of what you are made of as a person. The lifestyles and the habits and the values that we seem to have adopted from the Scots, the Europeans, the Americans, the Caucasians, and even the Asians, that is their own life as well. So why do we throw ours away? It is not all lost. We can reclaim it. We can reclaim it. I've mentioned that Japan is a shining example of a real modern society, so to speak. If we say this time is a modern society, but it is actually a Western model, yet it totally blends it with their tradition. Yeah. And when you talk about indigenization, I think there's no better example than Japan. Yeah. Yet in terms of advancement, technology, and all other types of technologies, I'm sure only one or two examples would beat Japan. So why should we throw everything away? We can totally reclaim. It is never too late.
And to add to that, I think aside Japan, you can also talk about China, especially China herbal medicine, that we call it Ayurveda medicine. It's basically their traditional medicine. Yeah. But we nearly threw our traditional medicine away until recently, when COVID came.
Yeah, we're told it's not quality.
But virtually we depended on it. Yeah. The glove, the neem tree, and many of this. That's where people were boiling, drinking, and that sustained us as an African.
Absolutely.
And one country even started exporting. It's in the south? Is it
Madagascar?
Madagascar, yeah. Started exporting some traditional medicine to the world.
Yeah, which had the world condemning. Like nothing good comes out from the African side. Well, that's a different conversation. Let's look at, we have seen some actions in times past within Ghana where we're trying to pick up the pieces and rebuild that kind of memory for our cultural heritage. Let's now look at the role of some people like the sages, people who over time were knowledgeable of indigenous beliefs. They were teaching science even when they're not being in the classrooms. These old men, old women who knew a lot. Today we have them with us. What role can they play in revitalizing this whole agenda so as to sustain our gains thus far?
Okay, so these are elders. They are the gatekeepers of knowledge and the cultural knowledge in their communities. Yeah. For example, when it comes to these sacred places, the storehouses and those things, they are storekeepers, and so you cannot bypass them. Yeah. And they preserve this and teach them to our generation. They make sure that the norms, the festivals, the ceremonies in the community is well preserved, and they make sure the rituals that goes with it are done. And also they are the keepers of the sacred groves and the forests and all that. And then they teach the value systems to the younger generation. And this has gone on from generation to generation up to now. So they have a lot to offer.
Great.
To us.
Great. And as you set to enjoy the comments, we would have to take a short break. We'll be right back and talk more about ways and means for us to appreciate our value and cultural heritage. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Hello Africa is a live breakfast show that aims to give you, our viewers, an informative, entertaining, and energizing start to your day. This isn't just another news show. It takes the form of vibrant magazine packed with news reviews, lifestyle features, engaging interviews, and interactive segments that put you at the center of the action. All you have to do is grab your coffee, get comfortable, and join us for the Hello Africa morning show.
We are here to kickstart your day with the news and stories that matter to you, alongside all the fun and inspiration we crave.
Every morning, join us for
the latest headlines in African higher education, science, and
quick and informative newspaper and online news review.
Lifestyle tips on fitness, nutrition, fashion, and beauty.
Inspiring interviews with influential figures and everyday heroes.
Performances and interactive contests, and so much more.
In Ethiopia, Salam Africa. In North Africa, Alan Afrikia.
In Swahili, Jambo Africa.
Hello Africa, your daily connection to the continent.
Great to have you back watching AAU Talks, the voice of higher education in Africa. And I'm here with two amazing personalities, Dr. Owusu-Ansah and Dr. Plockey. And we're talking about preserving culture and heritage. And to you, Dr. Owusu-Ansah, you know, today we are trying to build this agenda of now integrating or reintroducing Ghanaian or African cultural heritage into our curriculum. We have strived for a longer time, and this keeps failing. We tried with cultural studies. It didn't really work well. So it got to a time where the religious and moral education was quite a bit bleak. We tried with social studies, and it's still not gaining the grounds. We leave it at the primary level, secondary level, and tertiary levels are quite distinct from these important values. How or what are some of the ways we can adopt these cultural value systems into our curriculum? Where do we start from with this agenda?
Okay, so yeah, the question is deep, and I'm sure the answers would have to be deep as well. There has been an evolution in our educational system where all these subjects you mentioned were introduced. I studied some of these subjects, and I think for me they were quite enough. I learned what I needed to learn at the time. Unfortunately, for some reasons known to the experts in the educational space, some of these subjects have been moved and others rather given priority. I think all in all, we can still find a better way to increase knowledge of our indigenous practices. There are some universities, for instance, that have indigenous knowledge programs. In fact, at Accra University, I think there's a program on is it Doctor of Medicine, traditional medicine. Yes, there's a whole program on that. I think UDS also has a similar program in endogamous or
indigenous development.
Okay, so at the tertiary level, it is possible to develop, I think, what they call general courses. At the University of Ghana, where I studied, I think there were some general courses which were embedded into African studies and all that. I think that the good thing is that at the tertiary level, when you look at African studies, which has been made compulsory, it is a very big step. But maybe we can continue with this trend and flash it to the lower levels of education. Also, cultural awareness. There used to be Cultural Awareness Day or Culture Days some years ago. I think that it can be reintroduced. When you go to some of the religious institutions, churches used to actually initiate young ladies who were reaching puberty, and that even in churches, and that was an eye opener for some of us when it comes to culture. Of course, there are some other negative aspects of some of these initiation rites, which I may not have to mention, but then we may need to reintroduce or revisit some of these programs or these initiatives. They were beautiful. They helped to bring people together. people from the diaspora or those living in Europe and America would want to come, even with their kids, to experience some of these practices. But today, taking advantage of modernization, there's technology. I think that we can take advantage of technology to actually digitalize some of these cultural practices, some of these stories or storytelling scenes. We can create cartoons, African, the Anansi cartoons, so many of them, just to ensure that we also enter the space. So right from the very beginning, children are already learning our culture. So I think that this is just maybe a tip of the iceberg. There's more we can do, but these are some examples that I would want to share.
Amazing. And Dr. Plockey, when you look into our own educational system, where we did away with our own indigenous way of learning without the formal system, was that we used to sit under big baobab trees with some firewood, a bonfire. We have an elderly person in between, or elderly woman, and we have these kids all around the fire, wrapped with their cloth, and they were learning from stories where moral lessons were just shaping minds and hearts and hands. Today, we say we find ourselves within a brick and mortar setting where it is a blackboard, a teacher, and a whip. Do we still have a place for storytelling, folklore, and dance, drumming, all within this formal education system? Is there a blend?
For now, I would say it's not that much. It's not that much, but we can bring it back.
What is the relevance?
It's really relevant. You say in African society, learning is by social immersion.
Good.
And so we learn through engagement and practice. And storytelling, as you were saying, is telling the story. Children are singing, they are attentive listening. Sometimes they need to do one or two things. And so we can bring it back. And before you end the story, you have everything within you. You've memorized everything. And it could be a way of teaching. Should it be static, like what we see now? It's a way, that's why we call innovation and creativity. We can bring back what we were doing from the old. Most of our teaching were just practical, hands-on, we listen, you see, watch and do. If you want to see your mother cooking, you observation and practice. And sometimes you tell story. We don't find it now, but we can bring it back. Now you maybe see it at only the nursery level, but we can bring it back even to the tertiary education level.
So, Owusu-Ansah, this issue about technology, now we have so many social media platforms and digital spaces consuming the time of the youth and their attention. That's where they are learning foreign culture. So these platforms are dominated by foreign elements, and we forget about ours because we don't have ours at such proliferate levels that we can all appreciate today. Is there a way we can catch up with an e-culture of a sort?
Okay, so what I would say is that, these social media systems that have come, unfortunately, many of them did not originate from Africa. Yes. In fact, the whole idea did not originate from Africa. So, but what we are fortunate about is that it is about content. It is rather about content, despite the fact that the infrastructure itself did not originate from here. There are a number of social media, I think, channels. I can mention Asantini. When you go on social media, Facebook, it is very popular, and they showcase a lot of cultural practices of the people of Asante. From the palace of the Asante Hene to many other cultural aspects of these people. And so for us, it is about generating content, enough content. Then we can also go to the application development side. Fortunately, there are a number of universities that are now teaching coding and programming and all these. Yes, so we can also take it upon ourselves, even the young people. So we can have competitions where young people as young as 8 are made to develop apps that focuses or showcases their culture, irrespective of where they are schooling or which region they stay. And all these are going to contribute to the development of content, which would then compete with the foreign content that we have on social media. And so the young people would get to appreciate their own. And in time, there would seem to be something like a renaissance of the Ghanaian or African culture.
Help me appreciate the kind of effort you've made thus far on this course, because this agenda calls for so much engagement and awareness creation to help people appreciate our knowledge systems. You mentioned content. Well, before content, there should be knowledge acquisition. So we need to learn on these cultural patterns that we don't even know and now create content for social media. So what have you done thus far? Are there campaigns, are there engagements that you have actually begun within your universities or institutions that are worth talking about today for us to appreciate how you have strived towards a cause?
Okay, I think Ghana as a whole is doing well. Look at the Ghana Month. Now everywhere, every social media, every program, every TV. Last night I was watching, TV3, and they were giving beautiful traditional music, the wulomes and all that, were beautiful. So I think there's that kind of, effort to educate the masses, to rekindle. Now we have the Gogbe Festival, Kenke Festival, Jollof Festival.
My TZ Festival.
Yeah, personally, I did work on we call it the bances. They are from the north. They are drummers, the folklores, the musicians. And they have the history, the socio-economic history of that one in their head.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm trying to promote that and thinking of to come out with what you call the Damba Lecture series.
Okay.
And then also we are also coming out with a model to teach community people how to do community archiving.
Great.
With some experts from University of Illinois and then Kenya. We are coming out with the model. And even last week we had a webinar about preserving our cultural heritage, which Doctor was the moderator. You also one of the hosts. Yeah, they are all efforts of rekindle our traditional knowledge, creating the awareness, the effort. They are parts of the efforts, the ongoing efforts that we are doing.
Great. Dr. Owusu-Ansah, help us put a wrap-up word out there in terms of catching up and sustaining our gains with our cultural heritage. We find today a very amassed space with social media platforms, and as you can see, lots of alien cultures are on the way, and the fact that we are losing up on our own. What should everybody out there look out for? We're talking government, private sector, other institutions. What collective role can we all play to help us bring back what we have lost?
So, thank you. Definitely, we have, as a people, we have realized the need that we need to catch up and recover what we have let go in respect of our cultural practice. However, there is a lot of, I would say, scarcity in terms of the efforts. We are doing so much, but because of the long gap, colonialization and the slave trade and all that did a lot to wipe away some of the cultural practices. But today we have the opportunity as a country. We would want to propose that we should have cultural heritage trusts for Ghana Cultural Heritage Trust. And this trust is going to be responsible for the conservation and preservation effort of the cultural heritage sites that some have been eroded over the years as a result of multiplicity of factors, including, of course, even climate change. But also, this cultural heritage trust will also be responsible for resource mobilization funds So governments must devote a certain percentage of the national budget to support cultural preservation and then conservation efforts. Then there will be awareness creation and a lot of initiatives aimed at revitalizing and ensuring a renaissance of the African and Ghanaian culture. And I believe that this is actually the way to go. Maybe last but not the least, we are living in the age of artificial intelligence. Yes. I can foresee that in the next 1 or 2 years, default search engine or default search on search engines is going to be powered by AI completely. So we need to generate content as Africans, as Ghanaians, so that the training materials that these companies are using, we will find our content in there. So some of us, myself and a few colleagues, we've already done some research to find out how much content of relating to African indigenous knowledge are used in the training of these AI systems. Yeah. We need to do more so that our children and even us, when we go online to do our searches, you'll find African content. The content we find are leading us to, misinformation, and there's a lot of bias. And so people think that there's no value in being African or being Ghanaian. And this is to our detriment. We need to do so much. And so I'll reiterate, Ghana needs a cultural heritage trust so that we can have a renaissance of the Ghanaian culture.
Amazing.
I would also urge all, let me say, the Vice Chancellors of Universities of Ghana to make sure prioritize our indigenous knowledge systems. They should integrate it in our curriculum. Maybe like University of Ghana is doing something that is African Studies being a compulsory subject for everyone entered the institution. We should do more. Other universities should emulate that. I think it will help us. And also there should be a very conscious effort, policy formulations, to make sure that implementation of our cultural heritage, implementation and preservation of our cultural heritage is a mandatory effort of all of us. It's for us. Nobody's going to do it for us. Yes, going to for us. I think when we do that, I think we'll be on course.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and thank you so much. Let me also take this opportunity to thank my ATU Vice Chancellor and the University Management for giving me such an opportunity and to strive in this area and having the opportunity to be here this afternoon.
Sure. Would you also want to share some?
Yes, of course. It is an opportunity that I have to be here because of the Akenten Appiah-Menkah University of Skills Training and Entrepreneurial Development, a university that prides itself in indigenous teaching systems and research, because we train people to acquire local skills which would help to advance national development.
Splendid. And that is how we wrap up today with an obligation and a mandate to everybody, myself, you, to not forget our identity and do well to use every opportunity we have or a platform to propagate and also extend that can see to everybody out there through our cultural values, which are solid, good, and strong. Have a nice day. For watching AU Talks, keep in touch and be safe. Bye.